Yo, 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 yo. Peace, blessings, glory, praise, and honor to the Most High. Welcome to another episode of Assembly of Excellence. I hope everyone is well rested. We are here one more Thursday, one more day above the ground. I am so grateful, so humbled to be with you guys one more day. It's easy to take life for granted, to think everything is just so insurmountable. But the fact that we have the opportunity right now to be better than what we were the day before, the fact that we have the opportunity right now to change our mindset, to change the way that we think moving forward, that we still have our limbs, we have air in our lungs, we have clothes on our back, food in our stomach, is just another testimony as to how far we have come throughout our life, no matter what the hardships are. I welcome everybody to tonight's episode. We got a lot to talk about. Make sure you hit that thumbs up, share this out. We want to get as many people involved in these conversations as possible. And they can't do this without you. So, first and foremost, I salute everybody that's in the building. If I didn't call you out by name, trust and believe me, I see you. Um, I want to go ahead and bring my guest up tonight. If you're not familiar with these guys, get familiar with them. They've been on a number of streams with me, from just soul ties down to building a community. Just the conversations, man, has been nothing but phenomenal. Y'all make sure y'all give them some love in the chat. If you got any questions, if you have anything that you want to share throughout this conversation, you are more than welcome. Uh, Mr. Matthews and Mr. Morrow, I'm bringing you up.
Thanks, man. And
Hello, hello,
Derek,
hello,
it's great to see
fellas.
you
How's
again.
everybody doing?
Thank you. Same. Good to see you, fellas.
I'm doing great. I'm not doing really well. I'm
Always,
really,
always
really
a
excited
pleasure.
about the show.
How's everybody doing this evening?
I'm doing fine. Welcome. Thank you for the another invite, Jason. Good to see you again.
Okay, okay, okay. Um, I think we kind of got the idea why we're here, but just for the people who don't know what this is about, uh, trauma bonding. I thought this was an interesting one because being in a number of different relationships throughout my history, I've always taken bits and pieces from various people that I've come across. And it's either been a detriment to my growth or it's kind of hurt me. And one thing that I've always noticed throughout that time was, with some people, it would be harder to move away from because I was so connected in a way where we shared similar stories or similar hurt with the type of toxic things that we surrounded ourselves with and got ourselves involved with. So I think a lot of why I would end up dealing with certain people for the time that I did was because of the things that we kind of had in common. I wanted to get you guys' thoughts on what it means to you, what it stems from, and how we can identify and kind of break away from those habits. So uh, we can start with Derek and Jason, and then come back to me, and we just continue to go in that rotation.
That is well. First, I think this is a very interesting topic. It's a very hard topic. Um, there's probably a multitude of every. I think for everybody, the answer to that what you just asked is going to be a different answer because everybody's situation is different. But in general, I think a lot of the times what happens is you build a rapport, a bond with somebody, and then you tend to overlook the negative aspects or you overlook the warning signs, or you, even if you see them, you think, this person will change because it's definitely possible that a person can change, and you see other situations where maybe things have changed. But it's when you build a strong tie to somebody, it's a very hard thing to break. And I'll let Jason go.
Appreciate it. So I actually cover this topic in a course that I created called creating toxic proof relationships. And the idea of trauma bonding is very similar to that of what it's the result of what is created when you have a narcissistic or a self-centered relationship that leads to emotional, physical, mental, or sexual abuse. And it's important to understand that when you have someone that has endured this, it's if they can't get out of the relationship, they're going to find some way of being able to work within the confines of that relationship. And that's not because they love that person. It's usually because they know that the only way that they're going to survive is to be cooperative and to be submissive. And that's going to be the thing that's going to, one, make the relationship more tolerable, and two, ensure that they have the least amount of danger in that relationship. But really, it's just survival. The trauma bond is a survival mechanism until the ability to escape or leave presents itself, where the person who is being traumatized in the relationship feels like they are able to leave that relationship without repercussions. And that last part without repercussions is very important. And this is a major reason why many people don't leave abusive relationships or toxic relationships, because they don't feel that they can leave that relationship without some kind of negative reprisal happening, and so they stay. The fear of changing, or the fear of leaving and having something bad happen because of that, is greater than the idea of staying, because they know what to expect when they stay. Now, if a person who is in a abusive relationship is able to have a support system that can help them with leaving and help keep them safe, it's much more likely that they're going to want to leave that relationship. They're going to be very successful in leaving that. And then it's dealing with the fallout that comes afterwards once that relationship is no longer there. So the trauma bond is as Derek said, it's very complicated in the fact that there are so many moving parts, and you have to really take into account how this person is coping. What is it that is causing them to stay? What support are they lacking that is allowing them to leave? And how they're able to keep on going on.
You both gave very astute responses to this, very accurate, so accurate to the point to where you just get flashbacks of certain moments in your life. Now I can't say everybody has gone through this, but for those who have experienced it like myself, because I have to always kind of put myself in these scenarios because it's real, and it's a regular occurrence, and a lot of people don't really recognize or understand it right away. You kind of get drawn into it without even knowing you're getting drawn into it, because somewhere inside of you, before you even knew the person that you're getting involved with, you already had certain things going on inside of you internally that longed for a haven. You needed a place of some sense of security and comfort. Your idea of what it looks like can be skewed completely by what your environment is. So if you grew up in a household that was fairly healthy and didn't really have a lot of chaos in it, you might see things a little bit differently in terms of a partner or a friend. And if you've grown up in a household where it's a little more turbulent, the same thing applies there. I think the two parallels to both of them is that in that healthy household, if you're used to love and some sense of morality and structure, anything that opposes that on the outside might come off as if it's exciting, and it kind of rebels against this idea that everything has to be done in order and in some type of constructive way, where danger seems a little more adventurous. Versus if you're on the other side of the spectrum and things are kind of toxic in your household, and your family really isn't the greatest example of how to be a tribe, and you go looking outside to people who lives a different way of life, you might kind of draw into that as well. So um one thing that I've noticed too, and you touched on it, and I'll pass it back to you, is what you said about the fear of the consequences of escaping or leaving that situation. Um, I can see that happening. I've been there as well. On the flip side too, what I've noticed is that a person would they would think and look at it as if I leave this situation, or I leave this person, then I'm not going to be able to find this anywhere else, or I'm going to try to compare them to the next person that comes along, and I'm going to continue this cycle of I need to find this fix. I need this high. Without it, I don't know myself. And yeah, I'll turn it over to you.
Jason, you go, then I'll go.
Appreciate it. Okay. Um, so one thing you had said, Melvin, that I want to touch on is the idea of what creates what is it that makes a trauma bond capable, because it doesn't just come out of thin air where you're in a relationship and boom, suddenly you're in a traumatic relationship. That doesn't happen that way. Surprise! Usually it's something that um, there has been something happen in someone's life that has predisposed them to that um, experience. Not always, but I find that this is a common occurrence, and I can use myself as a as an example. So my my childhood was extremely tough. I lived with a father that was always working and always hardly ever home, and it left my mother to basically be a single parent who was not very emotionally stable. She had a lot of she was emotionally um, scarred, and she really visited that on my sister and I quite often. And so it was a very abusive household, both emotionally and physically. And because of that, I thought that once I got out of that household, I was like, I'm free. I can basically do what I want. But little did I know that I was taking that those emotional scars with me, and it for a very long time it influenced every single decision I made about the partners that I was with. They were people who were very controlling, they were very manipulative, they're emotionally abusive, and uh, I felt like I had to deal with that. It was my job to either help them out of that or just to endure it until I couldn't any longer. I got better, and I was able to eventually see the pattern that was there and get myself out of it. But when there is that pattern, it exists for a reason. There's something in your life. Either you lacked something that you are looking for, or you are bringing to a relationship something that you are unaware of, and it invites relationships with people who are going to enable that same kind of cycle of a relationship that had the trauma bond. My trauma bond was with my mother, so I'm going to have a lot of relationships that exhibit that. And it's not that I it's not that I was looking for them. It's just that my my behavior, my perception, my perspective was such as I was finding people who were just like that because I was still dealing with that emotional hurt, with that baggage that I was carrying around with me. And until I was able to leave it behind, I was able to get the help necessary and really find a new way of living and acting. That's when I was able to create a completely different dynamic. So yeah, the trauma bond really comes from your past experiences oftentimes.
The one thing I want to, well, first, Sarah's killing it in the chat, by the way, if y'all haven't read her comments. Um, and the second or the other thing I want to say is I think a lot of the times what happens is you don't realize the negative, or you don't realize what you're in until you're in too deep, right? Because I'm going off of I've known a lot of people that have fallen into those things, and some of them come from great households, some of them didn't. Some of them have, you know, unresolved issues from their youth. Some of them didn't. Some of them had issues with getting out because of circumstances. Some of them had it easy if they wanted to get out, but for whatever reason, they just couldn't. So this is one of those things where, at least from my experience and my perspective, there's just so many variables that could go into this building up. Now, the one thing I will say is also, it's also one of those things, whereas once you get in, for whatever reason, um, it's hard to get out, but I think it's hard to get out because a lot of people don't necessarily see themselves as having an issue with this particular thing while you're in the midst of it, right? Everybody else around you can tell you, but you have to realize for yourself before you can pull yourself out of it.
A couple of excellent statements have been made between the chat and both of you. I want to acknowledge Sarah Gade because she pretty much said a lot of what you guys just said as well. And I think what's important to focus here on is these things that happen to us are not a representation of us. It is not our fault. You can't predict how you're going to be raised and what you're going to be introduced to. What you should keep your mind open to is the possibility that there are extenuating circumstances surrounding your personality and the way that you deal with certain things that might not have been something inherently given to you in the first place. I give you an example. My mother, she was not very maternal, but she would kind of breadcrumb her love and kind of outsource it to all of us the best way she knew how. It was almost like she knew how to, but then she didn't know how to. And so I really picked up on that same motion and how she kind of would distance herself and then come back later on and try to love bomb you and things of that nature. But she also had a horrible um, experience in the dating market in terms of who she would deal with. And I picked up on that too as well. And I think a lot of my siblings did. And what ultimately happened was it forced us to only see things through her scope and her eyes. So anytime someone that was introduced into our circle came with something different than what we knew about, we rejected it because we didn't know nothing about it. It was like foreign to us. All we knew was how to kind of distance ourselves and kind of pick and choose, and we would always gravitate towards people who were kind of um unkept and mentally emotionally unavailable. We were always drawn to it, but I don't know why. I guess it was just because it just seemed like if we kind of put ourselves out there and we kind of put our heart on our sleeve and we did everything within our power, and I guess that comes back from me wanting my mom's attention to. You do everything that you can to be a good son, a good this, a good that. So you sacrifice everything that you are and am to get this this love back, and you'll settle for anything that you can get from them to the point to where you don't even know yourself. But the problem is the older you get, you start to connect with other people who move and act the same way as you, but you don't really know. You've had people tell you this isn't it. Nah, what you doing don't nah. This isn't healthy. But you can't see past that. All you know is this feels good in the moment. They're probably manipulating me, yeah, maybe, but that's what I'm used to. Me and them have like this We have these awesome conversations some days where we just agree on everything. We just love the same type of movies. We've had people break our hearts. We've had people lie to us. We come together and we kind of have similar stories, and it's like, wow, it feel like I've known this person forever, but the whole time you don't really realize that both of you are kind of just broken. And so that's a very explosive and implosive position to put yourself in when you don't know yourself and the other person doesn't either. But that's just one side of it, because a lot of what you're speaking on is a very prevalent right now in 2024 as well.
So I just want to ask two questions. First one is for either or both of you, and especially, I mean, it happens to both male and female, but especially for women. We were, or up until very, very recently, girls were always taught stay in the relationship, don't leave that man, especially if you're married. So, um, how much of that do you think um, leads to this? And then my second question is just how do you how would you deal if you see this happening to a friend of yours or a family member? How would you try and address the situation? Because most likely the person that's in the situation is not understanding um, the issues, or maybe not seeing it in the same eyesight that you would be from the outside looking in.
I apologize. I missed I missed what you were saying. My wife came in to ask a
Oh,
question.
no, it's fine. So I just had two questions for either or both of you. So my first question was just, um, and again, this happens to both genders, but more more than often it happens to females more. Was just as you're growing up and your girls are always told, don't leave that man, especially once they get married. Don't leave that man. Stay with that guy. You know, you or once they have kids, they were just always taught slash trained to not leave the situation, no matter how bad it is, because you can pray about it, or this will get better, or whatever the outcome is. So I was just wondering, how much do you think those kinds of teachings lead have led to this? And then my second question was just, if you know a family member or friend that's going through something like this, how would you address it? And address it to the point where maybe that person starts to understand what they're in the middle of.
Those are fantastic questions. I'm really glad that I asked you to repeat those because those are fantastic questions. Um, as to the first question, the, there is a simple answer which doesn't do the question justice. And there's a complex answer that can sometimes feel a little bit out of touch. So I'm going to do my best to give both answers. The first answer is that when it comes to people saying, well, don't leave that man, or when you have kids, you have a duty to stay in that relationship, that's I think that goes back to the whole idea of the fear mongering type of religious beliefs that govern marriage and relationships and things like that, and putting more of a responsibility on the relationship itself rather than the people involved. And I can understand that to a point. When it becomes abusive, everything goes out the window. There is no staying because you are now in danger, and the your well being is being compromised, and that's no bueno. The more complex answer that I again can sometimes seem out of touch is the idea that maybe these are the same answers. Maybe I'm just kind of overcomplicating it, which I'm good at doing. It's the kind of thing where, yeah, I was gonna say something that I lost it. Never mind. So we'll stick with my first answer because that seems pretty good. As to the second question, as far as uh, my mind is just mush today. Yeah, you're gonna have to remind me of that second question because I kind of got down a rabbit hole in my own mind.
Yeah, no problem. The second question was just if you see these traits in a relationship for a family or a a
Right.
friend that you're in, how would you address it?
The only thing that I would do is I would seek to understand what they're going through. I would be a listening ear. I would let them know that it was safe to talk to me, and that talking to me and letting me know what's going on. The only thing that I want to do is to understand and find out what they want to happen from that conversation. If they're just looking for someone to vent to, if they're looking for someone to be an ally, or if they're looking for help. Because the one thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to suggest something they are not comfortable with. I'm not going to suggest a course of action that they don't feel like they are able to move forward with. But I am going to make it as comfortable as possible for them to want to trust me, to open up more, and eventually, hopefully, help you use my help to come up with a plan. And I would hope that anybody would really do that. I would hope that anybody who encounters someone in that situation would have that same mentality of the idea of wanting to understand where that person is coming from. What is it that they want to have happen? And at what point do they feel like they are capable of making a change? And being there for them, regardless of at what stage they are at.
Just to add on to that, uh, I think I'm gonna reverse answer this. So I'll start with how I would probably go about. First of all, if I've learned anything in this life is that you can't force feed anyone. They have to be in a place to where they are able to receive whatever it is that you're going to say to them. Unfortunately, it usually comes down to a couple of scenarios taking place that's not going to be very fun. And like you said, you have to be a good listener. You have to be able to take in what they're saying. You have to be able to understand them. You have to know them. You have to make it a safe space for them to be able to talk to you, because the second that a person that is in that position feels attacked, or they feel, let me go a little deeper into that. A person who deals with trauma bonding is usually someone who is going to look at everyone else on the outside looking in as a possible danger or threat to what they got going on. They're not going to see you as a person that is on their side. That's just how they're wired at the particular moment. They can't see anything past what they are accustomed to and what they find joy in. It's only until the joy and the thrill is gone that they finally start to look at other avenues. It's almost like you're constantly going to the same store buying the same candy over and over and over again until you realize you don't like it anymore. And it's not healthy to you and it's not doing anything for you. So you have to find something else. And that's usually how a person who has been programmed to think a certain way is only until they go through it enough, until until they realize that now maybe I need to listen to other people. But until you're at that place to where you're humble, the only thing that I can offer you is an ear and prayer. I can pray for you. I can talk to you, but and I know this for a fact because I've been on both ends of it. I've been the person who didn't want to hear a single word anyone would say, and I've been the person who's tried to talk to people and they didn't want to hear a single word I said.
But
And I
even
understand why.
no, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead.
No, go
No,
ahead,
you
finish.
good.
I'm,
Go ahead.
no,
No,
my
I'm
question
just
for
I'm
you.
just I'm, you got it.
So my question was just for just at some point though, don't you, even if they don't want to hear it, don't you at some point don't you just need to be honest and truthful with them? I'm not saying rake them over the
I
coals.
say I said no, no, of course. You can be as honest as you want with a person. If they're not ready to hear it, they're just not going to hear it. But you can plant the seed all you want. There's a scripture in the Bible that speaks about, and it's a parable where there's different parts of it to where a person receives the word. One part of the word might be received and it lands in good soil. There's another part of the word where it's received and it lands on concrete and the sun dries it out. There's another parable where the person receives the word, they take it in, they receive it in their heart, but it ends up in thorns and it gets completely smothered and choked to death. So what people need to understand is that your heart and your mind and your spirit has to be in a certain place to be able to receive what someone else is saying to you. If it's, you can tell somebody all day this is not good for you, you're going to burn yourself. But until they're ready to take it in, you're just kind of wasting your breath. I'll put it this way. I'll tell you, I'll tell you one time, maybe two, this is going to end bad for you. I'll break it down to you. Most of the time, they're going to fight you on it. Some people will literally fight and scratch and claw. They'll take it so offensive to the point to where they're attacking you because they feel as if you're trying to take something from them. You're trying to take a good thing from them. And the best that you can do, you can say whatever it is that you want to say to them. There sometimes you just got to go through it. You can love them from a distance and just let them go through. And then one day, Lord willing, something tragic doesn't happen to them where they are in this abusive situation and someone's life is at risk. Let's hope that doesn't happen. But one day they're going to wake up and they're going to realize that their way is not the way. And they're what they thought they knew, they had no idea. We get in our own way sometimes and deprogramming ourselves from those toxic habits and traces is painful, is exhausting, and some people just don't want to put the work in to do it. We'll run away from accountability until we are bedridden. People will run their entire lives from dealing with their self before God say, nope, it's time for you to sit down. You're not going nowhere else. You're gonna have to sit with this. Sometimes you get forced into them situations, but you can plant the seed. You can definitely plant a seed. I'm a firm believer in that. Just like we have these conversations here, somebody is listening, somebody's taking it in. And I like to always, when I listen to you talk, I go back in time. I get in my time machine. I go back to a scenario that happened in my life, and I'm thinking, yeah, this is true. Yep, that was me. That happened. I've had people talk to me the same way that you're trying to talk to me too. Yep. And you know what? I'm grateful for. I wish I wasn't so stubborn and hard headed, but I don't beat myself up over it. Because everybody's path is different. Some people just are delayed a little longer than others. I turn it over to you, bro. You got it.
Thank you. One thing that I want to ask is, and this is more of a reflective question. If you are providing guidance or advice to someone who's not listening or who doesn't want to hear it, who are you really providing it to, or who are you providing it for? Is it for you, or is it for them? Because a person will only be able to receive what they are capable of receiving, which means that if you want your message to be effective, you have to make sure it is something that lands where they are rather than where you want them to be. Well, there's some clients that I work with. I work with many different clients, especially using human behavior. And one thing I tell them is like, imagine you have two islands, and one of them is called Pain Island, the other one's called Solution Island, and there's this huge ocean between them. But you're on a boat, and your boat has the capacity of taking them from Pain Island to Solution Island. But in in the way of them getting to the boat, you can say, "Well, yeah, come on, you can. I can take you there." But if they go into the water, there's a bunch of sharks that are going that could possibly eat them. So how do they know that they can get to where you are safely? They have to know that you are understanding how to help them get to where they want to go. Meaning that you need to let them know that yes, not only can I help you, but I can guide you along the way to make sure it's safe for you to get to the boat so you can go to Solution Island. And that takes your ability to be very empathetic to where they are in that moment, letting them know that you understand them in a way that they understand that you understand them, because that's the only way that they're going to want to take the risk of trusting you. Because remember, people who are in the situation, trust is a risk. It's one of the greatest risks that they can take because they have no idea what that trust is going to lead to. So by saying, well, I think you should do this, but in their mind, they're saying, hell no, it's not safe. There's no way that I know how to do that. I can't trust that I can do this because I have no idea what the consequences are going to be. And the consequences will be way worse than what I'm experiencing right now. So, no, 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 thank you. I'm not doing that. But if they understand that you know where they're coming from and you understand their plight of what they're going through, and you can help them with creating a solution and they can believe in it and they can trust in it, that is when they're more likely to want to get from where they are onto the boat to enjoy the solution. But it takes being able to understand what life is like in their shoes, what life is like for them, so that you can help them with devising a plan in a way that they know is going to be safe for them.
I like that. I like that a lot. Trust. Trust is super underrated. I don't think people really understand how underrated that is of a trait. Once that's broken, it's hard to repair. Even after you've taken some time to heal, you still kind of got this. I don't know. I've seen too much to kind of allow somebody else to step in and guide me. I don't know if I can do that because history has shown me that that has never worked out for me. That was very, very deep right there. I like that one. I get that totally. Um how do you even get somebody to trust you enough to even be in that vulnerable state? You've had all this stuff happen to you, but you have a circle, or you have people around you, whether it's multiple or it's single. You have someone around you that is in a place. They see it from multiple perspectives. They are qualified in a number of ways. Remove statistics. They are qualified to do the things that is necessary. How do you get a person who has been affected that much to allow you, or trust in you enough to guide them out of that into a more healthier way of living?
So this is where it takes the efforts of co-creation in order to create that kind of trust, because you have to be in a place where there's a great book by Deb Dana called Polyvagal Theory and Therapy. Polyvagal theory is basically it's a really great guide of understanding how people act and react and how they draw their emotional cues. And one thing that she says in opening the book is the goal of life. The goal is to fall in love with life and enjoy the risk of living. And that's really profound because it undertows or underpins the idea that life is risky. It is a risk to live, because when you take that risk, you know there are going to be times when you gain a lot of benefit, when you have a lot of joy in your life. There's also going to be times where you have a lot of pain in your life, and it's the ability to take both the pain and the joy and take those as experiences of learning. If you have an experience like an abusive relationship and you say, I can't possibly learn to love again or trust again, what you've done is you've victimized yourself to the point where you have taken yourself out of the running for enjoying life. Because anytime you are interacting with another human being, there is going to be risk. Life is messy, but it's not so much the experiences where I want to experience this. There's no way that you can guarantee you're going to have a certain experience. It's impossible. What you can do is you can decide how you're going to react to the experiences you have. You have a partner that's verbally or physically abusive. Okay. The lesson learned here is you know what kind of traits in a person you want to avoid so that you don't experience this again, but you don't give up on the dating scene. You have a parent that is um, denying emotional support. Okay, you know that there are things you have to develop in yourself so that you feel those, and you can look for people who are going to see you as someone worthy of enjoying those emotional cues. When you see life as being a series of lessons to learn, rather than a the expectation of getting a certain outcome, you're much more likely to have a sense of resilience about you, where you can take the good with the bad and say that I learned from this and I can do better next time.
It's not a comfortable road or easy one. Not at all. Once you've intertwined with a conglomerate of different souls throughout your lifetime, and if you found yourself trying different ingredients, what works and what doesn't work, if you spend the majority of your lifetime trying to figure out what fits you and what doesn't fit you, you've accumulated a sum of many generations throughout your journey in this life. You've met different people with the same things, but they just carried it completely opposite of the other person. All of this stuff you carry with you, and it stays with you until you figure out how to get rid of it. I want to ask this question, uh, Dirk, just from your opinion, and it's for everybody, whoever wants to answer it. But I just want to ask, if you're someone who has dealt with a number of people throughout your lifetime, how do you unlearn the things that you picked up along the way? Like untrain your mind to carry these characteristics of other people with you.
I so in my because I've been professionally, I've been in training for a long time, right? And I've coached a lot of kids, teenagers. I think one of the things that we should not do is never you don't. eh, So you have to go with me here, but you don't unlearn things, right? You learn things both positive and negative. Just let me say it this way: if you're a parent, one of the first things you tell a kid is don't touch the fire, right? First thing a kid is going to do, touch the fire. And until that kid touches the fire, that kid is never going to understand what fire is. So as we learn things, even the negative things, what you have to do is not try and not face those things. You can't just put it in a you know you have this negative trait and you try and bury it. What you have to do is whatever, even those negative things, you have to face it. Because what happens is when you put those negative things away, that's when it starts to eat at you. That's when it starts to, then you have all of these quote unquote, you have this unresolved trauma. What you need to do for those negative things in life is you need to face them and address them. That way you can move on. Everything can be a learning experience, whether positive or negative. So, as we grow, we learn, okay, this is a positive thing, so I'm going to keep this thing. This is a negative thing, so I need to address this, and I'm not going to use that. But if you don't address the negative thing, then that's when things fester.
Anna Fox
So
said books. I got you, bro. I just wanted to read her message real quick. She said
mhm,
books my old therapist recommended to me helped tremendously. I just wanted to make sure I got that recommended, not read part. I got you. The floor is yours though, brother.
I appreciate that. So um, I just want to make sure I'm making sure to write the questions that people ask down so I don't lose them because I felt so lost when I couldn't remember what Derek was saying to me. I apologize, but from what I understand, what you're asking is how do you separate yourself from the experiences you pick up through your life from others? Correct?
Yeah.
Right. So when I was dating this one woman, we broke up pretty badly, and I decided that I was going to use that experience to evaluate all my other relationships, and I found out that that's not a good thing to do. And it took me being able to understand how that relationship affected me and the way that I had decided to protect myself and how that protective mechanism was actually harming other people. And I think that's what caused me to want to change. The thing that really affected me was how my behavior was affecting others. Because we as human beings are a social creature. We can't not thrive if, or we can't thrive if we don't have community or we don't interact with others. We thrive and we grow from the interactions we have with other people. And I think the more that you're willing to understand how your behavior either positively or negatively affects others. For me, it's especially the negative behaviors. When I understand how my behavior affects others negatively, I can look back on that and say, how can I change the way that I interact or I react or respond? And that for me, that's the thing that really matters is being able to understand how my behavior affects others and how I'm going to change my interaction so that it creates a more positive influence and a more positive environment for those that I interact with. Because when you have a negative behavior, it tends to draw out negative behaviors in others. When you have a positive behavior, it tends to draw out positive behaviors from others. And the positive behaviors is where we really thrive the most, and how we really overcome adversity, how we build resilience, and how we also build trust. So if we can look at our own behavior and say, how is what I'm doing, either positively or negatively, affecting the way that I interact with others? And if it's negative, how and what can I do differently that will help to contribute to a more positive interaction with others? I think that that's really the only way that we can really look at that is and where the our own behavior is the only thing that we can change.
I'm glad you said that last line. That because one of the things I think people also need to realize is you can't change other people. Some people are just mean, ignorant, nasty people, and no matter what you're going to do, there's nothing you can do to change other people. So hopefully that's not the case, but there is always that one of one person that person just is what it is, and there's nothing that you can do to fix that other person.
Yeah, all you can really do is just wish them well and move on. And that can sometimes be the best thing for you and for them because while you don't have to have any kind of negative thoughts about them, you don't have to be around behavior that is not going to serve you.
That's a fact. That's a whole fact. I don't know how many times you try to stay because you feel like if you don't stay, then they're going to get locked up or they're going to hurt themselves, or without you they can't live or survive. So you got to put yourself through an excessive unnecessary amount of mental drama and all this stuff all over the idea that you feel like you have to, or you have to do this, or you have to do that. Puts you in a position where you might end up missing your blessing, or you might miss out on some opportunities or some things that might be right there or coming up because you don't understand that everything has a season. Sometimes you have to just continue on your own journey and allow them to figure it out. You can only do but so much. Let me do this real quick because I know we just broke the hour mark. Um, Shout out to everybody who came through. Adrian, Kelly, Sarah, Anna. Appreciate everybody for pulling up. I like to give my flowers out throughout the live stream. Um, I want to show some love to my content creators, my writers, my poets, people from IG, from YouTube, so on, so on. I play a little clip either at the end of the show or somewhere at the beginning. Um, so just bear with me. I just want to do this one for a second, and we'll give our final thoughts on the topic. From me to you, thank you all, man, for y'all support, for y'all love, man. Um, Closing remarks. If you gentlemen have any final words before we close out, the floor is yours.
One thing that I would say is if there is anyone that find themselves in a difficult relationship, one where it does feel hard because it feels abusive, either emotionally or mentally, sexually or physically, and you are looking for help, all that I can suggest is really find the people that are willing to listen to you and find the people that you trust that you can help or that you can create a plan with and how to move out or get out of that relationship. Um, and for those who have the ability to interact with those who are in abusive relationships, just be willing to listen to them, be there, be present, be willing to be there for them in the capacity that they need, and be willing to help them out of the situation when the time is right. That's going to be the biggest way to help someone out of that kind of situation. And I turn it over to you, Derek.
I guess my final remark would just be for not for the person that's in the situation, but for everybody else. You know, you guys, a lot of the times you have been put there for a reason. So friends, family, um, be respectful. Try to understand what that person's going through. Um, you don't need to voice your opinion 92,000 times because that's when they stop listening to you. You know, but um, like Jason just said, try and be there as much as you can for that person in need. And then when that situation or that time arises where that person can get out, try and be as helpful um, as you can be.
Excellent, excellent advice. I love the wisdom in this room. A lot of collective minds came together tonight and shared a lot that I'm going to sleep and meditate on and go into my Friday with. Hopefully the snow prevents the government buildings from opening up and I can kind of relax on some of this a little more. But for the most part, man, y'all said a lot that I think a lot of people can definitely take back and kind of add onto the things that they already had in mind going forward into the next day. I want to thank everybody from Kelly to Derek to Jason and Anna to Sarah, just everybody, man, for the engagement. I love to hear from everyone. I love to hear how your experiences shaped you. I love seeing the back and forth between everyone from the panel and the comment section. Those are the type of relationships we need to be creating and building. And I hope that you take this with you moving forward and you utilize it, in the most healthy ways possible. Anna said, I so agree. I have to tread lightly in those situations. Also, I've tried to help someone and it backfired, even though they asked for help originally. It goes back to something I said earlier. You can only do so but so much before you end up being looked at as the enemy. But that's a whole nother story right there. Um, I'm going to chill on tomorrow. I'm trying to set something up for us on Saturday. It'll be early. It won't be late like this evening. So y'all stay on the lookout for that. Uh, we don't waste no topics over here. If it's going to be something that's going to be of importance or of some type of significance, so just be on the lookout for it. Um, I hope and pray that God keeps and covers all of you tonight, and that He sends angels to cover your houses, your doors, your windows, keeps you safe on the road in the morning. And yeah, have a blessed night. This is Assembly of Excellence signing out. Kelly, I see you, brother. Uh, you be easy out there. You take care of yourself. Everybody take care of themselves. And we'll reconvene here Saturday for those who can make it.